Why does gravity seem to be so much less forgiving when I'm doing pull-ups and push-ups? Hey, just do some push-ups and some pull-ups. That's a great workout. What if I can't even do one? I'm advanced. I need more weights. Push-ups and pull-ups, that's beneath me. Hey everyone, Marcus Philly here with Functional Bodybuilding, and my goal today is to get you stronger push-ups and pull-ups, and to make a case for why pushing and pulling your body weight through space is so valuable for any level of athlete. I'll show you exactly how to do it and break down all the concepts. And even if you need to come back to this video later, be sure to sign up at the link in the description for a free PDF that will get you stronger push-ups and pull-ups in no time. I believe the push-up and the pull-up might as well just be prerequisites to any fitness program. I mean, why start picking up weights if you haven't mastered the ability to move your own body around against gravity? For the vast majority of people on the planet, these two movements might be all you ever need to develop upper body, both functionally and aesthetically. So why is there this preoccupation with doing weighted exercises and machine in place of just doing more and more push-ups and pull-ups? Well, to properly execute a push-up and a pull-up with good form through a full range of motion, you need to be somewhat strong just to begin with. In fact, when I owned my gym for 6 years, it was usually about 8 or 9 out of 10 individuals that would walk through the door and they would not be able to do both of these movements well. Many of these clients were gym enthusiasts, played recreational sports, and considered themselves in decent shape, yet they still had a hard time doing a quality push-up, and in most cases, they had no shot at a single strict pull-up. Why is that? See, watching my kids play around the exercise equipment we have at home, I can tell you that it is well within our genetic potential to learn these skills and develop this strength at an early age. The trick is just getting enough exposure early on and then sustaining that strength for life. What happens, however, is that most people get pretty close to developing these skills just by playing in the yard or in the gym class at a young age. Then they go off to school or work where they sit most of the day. They never play on monkey bars anymore, and it's goodbye pull-ups and goodbye push-ups. We have to get these skills back. Just like a bodyweight squat, a simple lunge, a strong plank, the push-up and pull-up should be foundations to your fitness. The process of getting them dialed in when you have never or haven't performed them for many decades means that we're going to need to build a regression-progression system that is easy to follow and can be performed consistently week after week. So let's take a quick look at the basic push-up and pull-up standards that we aim to progress our clients to for each of these movements. First, we're going to look at the push-up. We're going to see 10 quality reps. The chest is going to touch the floor and the thighs are going to remain off the ground. The body has to stay in a straight line from shoulder through hip to heel, and the shoulder at the bottom of the push-up is slightly in front of the fingertips. The forearm is perpendicular to the floor. And at the top of the push-up, the shoulder is going to be directly in line with the fingertips. Second, let's take a look at the pull-up standard. We're going to look at getting 5 quality reps. We're going to begin from a dead hang with the elbows locked and the shoulders relaxed. You're going to contract the shoulder blades and the arms simultaneously to pull yourself up and over the bar. That repetition range of motion is complete when the collarbone touches or comes within about 1 centimeter of the pull-up bar. Then you're going to return back to the bottom of the repetition under control and repeat for 5 reps. Well, how are we going to get you to those standards if you don't have a single pull-up? This is where functional bodybuilding concepts enter. The concepts that we use to take athletes from simple to complex movements can and should be applied here. You'll only need a couple simple tools that most facilities and home gyms can have, and you'll be well on your way to getting better in these 2 areas in no time. And hey, if you think you're already pretty darn good at push-ups and pull-ups, then I encourage you still to listen along and see if there's layering of some of these movements or concepts to your current training could help you get even better. How about having more control and more strength with what you already feel confident in? I suppose that if you can't yet do 100 push-ups or 50 pull-ups without stopping, then you actually probably still have some room to go. So don't skip ahead, follow along, and see where you have growth potential in you. All right, this tutorial is getting broken down into 4 sections for each exercise. We'll be covering the following concepts for both the pull-up and the push-up simultaneously so you can see how they apply in both cases. We're going to assign a movement for each. That's going to help illustrate how you can train this attribute of each of the exercises. Starting off with concept number 1, eccentric contractions. So gravity doesn't have to be your enemy, especially at first when you're learning. Don't try and fight gravity on every single rep. Instead, we can work with it using eccentric portions of exercises, otherwise known as negatives. As we lower our bodies from the top of a range of motion to the bottom, we don't have to overcome gravity, but instead, we just have to oppose a certain percentage of it depending on how fast or slowly we lower ourselves. This is how we can turn body weight training into something that feels variable in resistance, like a strength machine or a free weight. You lower very slowly, and you need to be stronger or push and work against more resistance. Lower your body at a faster rate, and you don't have to apply as much force. We can therefore vary this based upon the strength of the athlete, and as you get stronger, the negatives get slower and more controlled. All right, taking a look at the pull-up negative. The setup for this one is pretty important. You have to position a bench or a box underneath your pull-up bar that is the correct height. I don't want you having to jump really far or pull yourself upwards or strain at all to get yourself up and over the pull-up bar. Instead, you should be entirely focused on holding a strong isometric contraction with your chin at the top and then start to slowly lower yourself down. The second key to this movement is that you must lower to a full range of motion. Don't let your feet touch the bench or the floor or anything else until you've reached the dead hang position. At that point, you can set your feet back on the box or the bench, you can climb back up to the top and start your next repetition. What's the goal? I want you working towards 3 full range of motion repetitions in a row that you can control from top to bottom for 10 seconds each. Take as much rest as you need between them, but those are your standards that you're working towards. So 30 seconds of total controlled time in the negative direction per set. Okay, let's take a look at push-up negatives. So similarly with the push-up negative, I don't want you straining to push yourself back to the top. The sole focus here is perfect body position while you fight to lower yourself correctly all the way to the floor. The points of performance for the push-up that I demonstrated in the standards video should be followed closely here as well. Think about shoulder positioning where it ends up relative to your hands, forearms perpendicular to the floor, all the things I mentioned previously. A common fault that we see on these is when the hips are starting to sag down. A movement cue to think about is to think that you want to make your sternum, right here, be the first part of your body to actually touch the floor. So don't let your hips or your belly tap the floor first. This is a good time to bring up the concept of eccentric overload. So you've gotten pretty controlled at doing these negatives. Well, before you develop the strength to push out of the bottom of the push-up or build the strength to pull yourself from a dead hang on the bar to the top, you're going to be able to build some serious eccentric capacity. You will even be able to do these 2 movements that I've just demonstrated with added weight. We call that eccentric overload, and it's yet another way to manipulate variables with our functional bodybuilding principles to help you hack this strength continuum. With the eccentric overload push-up, it's really quite helpful to have a partner that can lift the weights off of you once you reach the bottom of the repetition so that you can get yourself positioned back to the top without being super awkward. But as you can see here, I'm able to complete it without a partner. It's not necessary. It's just a nice touch if you have somebody around to help you. Once you gain control of your body weight for 10 seconds through the full range of motion on the negative, this is when you can start to add eccentric overload or external weight. You might be surprised how quickly strength can be gained with this method week after week. Okay, we're going to dive into concept 2, and this is a concept of extended range of motion. So we explore this frequently in functional bodybuilding. Extending the range of motion in training of a movement pattern. The late Charles Poliquin had a saying that strength is gained in the range that it's trained. So to fully master the pull-up and the push-up, we can take advantage of strengthening our end ranges of motion in these 2 movement planes. Furthermore, we can also manipulate the range of motion by changing the shape and the path that we take through the pull-up and the push-up. By doing so, we'll add a little bit more resilience to our upper extremity. We're going to enhance our strength throughout the full range of motion, and possibly add some strength to angles of the movement that we might otherwise be missing by simply training the standard range that you saw earlier over and over again. As an example to demonstrate this principle, we're going to look at the assisted ring lean away pull-up. For this, you're going to want to adjust a set of rings to about shoulder height when you're standing directly underneath them. This height will allow you to use your feet to fully support you at all times. You can focus on the range of motion and the directionality of this movement, not worry about having to strain too much. You're going to grip the rings in a standing position, pull some tension onto them. Then you're going to start leaning your body backwards, fighting the negative so you can control yourself all the way down. Keep leaning back and lowering at the same time until you've reached a full hang in somewhat of a squat position. Keep in mind that it's up to you how much leg support and leg drive you wish to use to pull yourself straight back up to the top or as you're lowering down. Your legs are just acting as an assistance while you help attempt to make this largest leaning arc away on the way down that you possibly can. Along with building longer range of motion, this will bring parts of your rotator cuff into the pull-up that will support healthy, strong shoulders for more training to come. On the push-up side, we're going to exemplify this particular concept with the deficit push-up. A standard push-up ends when the chest touches the floor, but what if we could go through the floor with our hands in a fixed position? Get more range of motion. This means an entire portion of our shoulder, chest, triceps would get training that otherwise in a standard push-up don't. So this can be accomplished with a couple of different tools that we have around the gym. You can use parallettes, dumbbells, kettlebells that don't tip, and you could even use 2 boxes or 2 benches. Now, while you can apply this particular exercise at any level of fitness, the assumption with this video is that you guys don't have full range of motion push-ups yet. So we need to start making this particular exercise easier, and we do that with an inclined body angle. So make sure you are sufficiently inclined with your body that it's easy enough to perform the full range of motion of this deficit push-up. Remember, the goal is depth. The goal is extended range of motion. That's the priority. So ensure that your chest falls past the contact points of your hands. If you're stopping short of your range of motion because it's hard, you need to make it easier by making your body more at an incline angle. As we get stronger and build more range of motion in your shoulders, you might be able to lower even deeper, or you can move your deficit push-up angle lower to make it harder. Lowering it until you're flat, or even at a slight decline for the maximal resistance that this probably could afford you in the exercise. All right, moving into concept number 3, assisted full range of motion reps for positional development. Up to this point, we focused specifically on negatives to build strength, assisted extended range of motion to kind of tackle those end ranges of our shoulder. But we still need to get back to doing the full range of motion standard. Proper movement development requires that you start to develop great motor control through the desired range of the goal exercises. So therefore, I suggest performing assisted full range of motion push-ups and pull-ups in the early weeks of your strength development. One of the reasons this fails people early on is they don't assist these movements sufficiently. The result ends up being that they're working too hard to push or pull themselves to the top of the movement, and as a result, they start to break form. Now, with poor form developed early on, these are hard habits to break. They might leave you plateauing your strength gains in the weeks or the months that follow. What is critical is that you choose an assistant level that is sufficiently easy that you don't have to worry so much about your strength development in these 2 exercises, but rather you can focus on the quality of your positions and really learn correct technique and form. We call these positional priority accessory movements. Your strength is being developed with negatives, so don't sweat it here. So let's look at the band-assisted pull-up and the band-assisted push-up. I want you to pay attention to how in each of these video demonstrations of the band-assisted reps, you absolutely need to think about perfect form, not straining, stopping the movement if you feel any fatigue, and definitely hitting the full standard range of motion and points of performance. Additionally, one thing I hear coaches say often when you're doing exercises is keep your core tight. And when athletes are straining really hard trying to get from point A to point B in an exercise, or their brain is just so overwhelmed trying to learn new proper movement, I think this coaching cue can be pretty useless. I mean, who the heck wants to think about one more thing when they're about to explode their brains or their bodies? However, in this instance, with these assisted exercises, I think the contrary. We're attempting to make this fairly easy with sufficient assistance so we can use these reps to focus on keeping our core tight. And I think a better cue for that is, number one, flex your quads, whether you're doing the push-up or the pull-up. Tighten your tummy, whatever that means to you, but just give it a little bit of a tightness in your abs. And then lastly, squeeze your legs together. Those three things can really reinforce great nervous system drive as you're connecting the dots with these relatively assisted and easy full range of motion push-ups and pull-ups. Okay, we're here at the final concept number 4, and that is elbow flexion extension accessory. So the primary movers in the pull-up and the push-up are without question the shoulders, back, and the chest. But there also is no denying the fact that the biceps and the triceps play a significant role too. And training those muscles can be beneficial in helping you get better at the pull-up and the push-up. So I've added 2 movements to the training list that are going to focus on flexion of the elbows for the biceps, extension of the elbows for the triceps. What I like about these 2 exercises is they are properly scalable for those of you working to get your first few pull-ups and push-ups, and you don't need any more equipment than what we've already used. You just need your bench or a chair and a set of rings. All right, we'll start with the ring bicep curl. And what we want to do is we want to find a body angle that allows us to feel like we can reach full extension of the elbow at the bottom and full flexion of the elbow at the top of the repetition. Err on the side of making this too easy and accumulate more reps instead. The second exercise is the bench dip. With the bench dip, you'll be able to feel some of this work in your shoulders and even your chest. But keep your focus on the extension of the elbow and pumping out reps with hard contractions of the back of your arms, otherwise known as your triceps. Now, can you be making progress with things like jumping pull-ups and knee push-ups? Sure. Is what I outlined the only way to develop a push-up and a pull-up? Absolutely not. But in my experience, those who dedicate themselves to a plan and a method have great success with fewer setbacks. So if we want to progress our push-up and pull-up with great mechanics, avoiding plateaus, keeping our shoulders and our elbows really healthy, then I would strongly consider applying functional bodybuilding principles that I've discussed here in this video. Number 1, use negatives. Number 2, use extended range of motion. Number 3, assist yourself so that you can learn great motor control. And then number 4, don't forget isolation exercises to build a larger, complex exercise like the push-up and the pull-up later on. Now, if you're thinking, wow, these are great concepts, Marcus, how do I even put it all together? I want to go and get started right away. Well, if you want to grab a free PDF guide on how to put these into 2 weekly mini workouts to add to your training, then just click the link in the description down below, head over and grab your free copy. I've got these exercises listed in an easy to follow workout guide that can progress week after week for you. So thanks for joining me yet again. If you think this video will help somebody that you know, then please share it with them. If more people could do push-ups and pull-ups without pain, I believe the world would be a better place. I'll see you next time.